Good morning. China and the other BRICS countries are setting up a new financial system, which is centered in Hong Kong. It's fascinating to watch how it's coming together and how fast it's coming together and how big it is already. And it's also fascinating that nobody seems to know about it. In setting up this new system, there was an important issue that needed to be overcome. How can member countries buy and sell without exposing their own currencies to speculators and without creating massive new levels of sovereign debt so that more of their currencies, which are debt instruments, can be used in foreign trade? Most countries run large trade surpluses with the United States, so they have lots of US dollars. What they hope to do, and they now are doing, is use US dollars to do the trade, but without going through US banks. Tether is a stablecoin, and stablecoins are a crucial tool to this whole effort. Hong Kong banks are conduits between mainland China and the rest of the world, and regulators there have established trading processing systems for stablecoins, as well as other crypto like Bitcoin, on top of handling all the other national currencies. Tether, though, is the biggest of them all, and by far the most successful. US banks are trying to do the same thing Tether did, create a stable coin that can be used to finance global trade. In 2024, Tether's profits were over $13 billion. Tether now owns $113 billion in US Treasury bonds, and now the company is diversifying into gold, Bitcoin, AI, and telecom. Stablecoin means that the value of the instrument is tied to a real-world asset. Bitcoin goes up and down with demand, sometimes violently. And for that reason, Bitcoin is not ideal for contract settlement, meaning that if my company is buying a shipment of tools with half payable up front and the rest due in 60 days, neither I nor the supplier needs the value of the medium of exchange to be jerking all over the place. Tether is tied to the dollar, so everything can be priced in dollars and settled in dollars, with Tether serving as the intermediary in the place of a commercial bank who would otherwise be charging both sides lots of fees just to press a button. Tether is so popular now and growing so fast that Tether is the 7th largest buyer of US Treasury paper. Tether buys more Treasury bonds than Canada, more than Mexico. Tether will pass the UK soon, if they haven't already. And this chart is a little bit misleading. Cayman and Luxembourg are number 1 and number 3, but they're not the true buyers. It's thousands of funds from dozens of countries that are set up there. Tether is a single entity, and Tether needs to buy these short-dated bonds to maintain its dollar peg, 1 Tether to 1 US dollar. American banks want in on all this action. They want to do what Tether's doing. There is a lot of demand from them to issue stable coins of their own. And Washington knows that they need a lot more buyers for their never-ending avalanche of borrowing and deficit spending, so government and Wall Street are writing laws. This is a shocking number, that the stablecoin market has gone up over 20 times in 4 years, from $20 billion to almost $250 billion. And last year, stablecoins processed $27 trillion in transactions. That $250 billion in reserve collateral funded nearly 100 times that in real-world trade. That is far higher than banks earn on their reserve lending. It's also a weird coincidence that $27 trillion is also the same size of US GDP. Tether and the smaller stablecoins are now doing the same volume as the entire economy of the United States. And that's all happening outside the United States, and this is the problem. All that business, already as big as the total of all the economic activity in the United States, is being done with US dollars, using US Treasury debt as collateral, and almost none of it is happening in the United States. Lawmakers are working on how to bring this industry back under US laws and supervision. The Genius Act is the one most likely to pass, and it is heavy on regulation and supervision by US authorities and banking officials. So right away we can see the problem from Hong Kong's point of view and all the other users of Tether and these other stablecoins. They're using them in the first place to be outside US regulation. They're happy to use American dollars. They're very unhappy to use American banks. Under this policy, a US government-approved stablecoin first must be issued by an entity with the proper permit. The reserves need to be US cash deposits, deposits held in the Federal Reserve System, Treasury bills or notes with short maturities. And this is the gray area where Tether is concerned. Tether's stablecoin is not issued in the United States. Tether cannot solicit investments from persons in the US, but Tether is not doing much of that now. The company is considering issuing a separate stablecoin for the US market, but their focus continues to be on the rest of the world. Tether has 420 million users, and they're making so much money they don't know what to do with it. This is another weird coincidence, or perhaps not. In the first quarter, Tether bought 8,888 Bitcoin. 8 is a lucky number in China. Chinese pay a high premium to have 8s in their phone number or on their car license plate, for example. It's especially important in Chinese culture for their home address. These are the 3 lucky numbers and why, and 8 relates to fortune. That number 8 is a mover of real estate markets wherever Chinese buyers are active. A home price that takes this factor into account can sell faster and at a higher price, as agents learned in Australia. But more important than the price is the street address. A property with a street address of 10888 sold for a 36% premium over comparable homes. And a study in Vancouver, where there were a lot of Chinese buyers until recently, showed a similar trend there. Researchers looked at over 100,000 home sales with an average price of $400,000 and found that having an 8 in the address means $10,000 more, and having a 4 means the seller gets $8,000 less. I don't want to make too much of this because it is possible that this is just an incredible coincidence that Tether just happened to decide to buy exactly 8,888 Bitcoin in Q1. It's possible. But it's also possible that this was a message direct to Hong Kong. Tether is making a fortune and they want everyone in China to know about it. Tether's big investments in Bitcoin have other implications as well. Remember, Tether is a stable coin that's pegged to the US dollar. But now Tether has big bets in other instruments like gold and Bitcoin, which are growing in value while the US dollar is falling in value. This analyst believes that Tether will break the peg upwards and one Tether will be more valuable than the dollar. The dollar is in a downward spiral while BTC is rising. Bitcoin, Tether, and the BRICS economies that use these instruments to buy and sell, they will be the anchor for tomorrow's economy. 2020 was just 4 years ago, and this business was nothing then. Now it's the size of the whole United States economy. In other words, Tether and these other stable coins are processing as much global trade right now as all the American banks combined. And nobody outside Hong Kong and a small handful of crypto companies and investors had any idea. One of the biggest stories in the history of global finance and markets, and nobody has a clue. This is Shishan in Anhui province. Be good.
Together we lift up the people of Asia. We pray that your